We got to mix the mission statement with the idea that everything is relevant. Our stand-up is relevant. Living in New York is relevant because it's all how to deal with day-to-day life.
Yeah.
Is that generally it? Yeah. And how the littlest things in the world ruin your whole outlook on life just because of one day when it's really not that big of a deal, but we've got to find a way to deal with our fucking anger, basically.
Yeah.
Welcome to the power of how. I'm Matt Fulcheron. I'm here with Brendan Tassif, Daniel Torado.
Hey.
Just got back from Los Angeles to find out in the mail I am officially a New York resident.
Hey!
Sorry
I got my driver's license.
Oh.
I'm fucking thrilled.
Hell yeah.
I've been living a fucking lie the past 5 years, walking around with a California license, just
How
waiting.
much is the license in California?
How much is that? How much does it cost?
Yeah.
I don't know. I really don't know. I don't remember it costing anything. I know I paid $150 for this New York license.
Oh, really?
Did you get the special one so you can
Yes.
travel?
I got the special one so I can travel.
Well, it was supposed to be May of this year, but they keep pushing it because it's so difficult. But you have to get like a specialty travel one. It basically they want it to replace passports going to like the Bahamas and to like Puerto Rico and stuff like that.
It's going to be awesome. Flights are going to be a lot more empty once this cutoff comes because there's going to be like 30% of the people are going to show up and be like, what do you mean my ID doesn't work?
They pushed it to 2025 because I'm getting on a flight in next week. And I was like freaking out about it because obviously mine, it's a little more difficult with my background and stuff to get the real ID.
Right.
And I was panicking because I meant to do it when I got my New York license like as soon as I moved here because I was like, fuck this, I'm a New Yorker now.
Right.
But they gave me like the old one, like the standard one. But then I looked it up. They pushed it to 2025, so we still have 2 more years.
I got a passport, a little dinky Canada, New York passport on top of that.
Oh, wow.
And I got my real ID, New York license. I'm getting on that flight, dude. That's how I travel. You want to talk paranoia? I always have different IDs in different suitcases. One in a pocket, one in this piece of luggage, one in this piece of luggage.
Oh, really?
Just in case I get pickpocketed or someone steals my bag.
Oh,
I'm
that's
getting
so
home.
smart.
I'm getting home.
Or you lose it and somebody can identify whose bag it is.
Yeah, is this on? Can you?
Check. Is it not on?
Yeah, no, you're good.
Okay,
Good.
sorry.
Yeah.
What'd you say? If you lose it,
Yeah, if you lose it, they can find the owner.
Right.
If they're a good Samaritan, which I saw.
Right.
I saw in New York firsthand. Some guy was running out of the subway, and he was like pacing up and down the platform. And I was like, this guy doesn't look like a crazy person. He looks like a normal guy. And then he has to use my cell phone. He goes, listen, I dropped my cell phone on the train.
Right.
And I was like, I'll like call it for you and put it on speaker. I'm not handing you my phone though. It's like this old white business guy. But I was like, I don't fucking know you, man.
Sure.
Yeah.
And sure enough, the train pulls up and some guy gets off the train and hands him his phone. I was like, what just happened?
Wow.
How did the train pull up and a guy handed his
Because I
phone?
guess it dropped. And when he turned around to grab it, the doors closed. So I guess the guy on the train was like, I'll get off at the next stop and come back and give it to you.
Wow, that's nice.
And that's exactly what happened. And I was like, oh, everyone talks all this shit about New York, but that doesn't
big.
happen in Florida.
Yo, I forgot my my new MacBook Pro at the airport. Yeah, brand new. I left it on a seat. And,
Oh my God, I'm gonna throw up.
And I went to the gate, and I'm like, oh shit, where's my computer? I ran back, and a dude was there waiting to see who's gonna come because he's like, this is expensive.
Right.
Yeah.
And I was like, I can't believe you know, he said I'll wait a while to see if, you know,
Someone
the owner comes back. And that I couldn't believe it.
Where's this at? In New York?
Yeah, New York.
Oh, well, that's
in
awesome.
LaGuardia.
Yeah.
I was on the
But there's no New Yorker.
Yeah,
in
that's true.
LaGuardia.
I was on the Tosh Tour 2010, and we were in Austin,
Huge
Texas.
flex.
Well, listen, a long time ago too. And so I'm working with this guy, Jasper Red. He's the other opening act.
I know Jasper.
And then there's also a tour manager who's kind of a cut up. So Jasper lets me use his computer in the hotel room before the gig. And I'm using it. And then me and the tour manager are like laughing. Ha, 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 ha. And then we get to the gig. And then right before I go on stage, Jasper's like, hey, man, where's my computer? And I'm like, oh fuck, where is your computer?
No.
Where is your computer? So I had to go do a whole 15-minute set with that in my head. Like, I'm right about to walk on stage.
Oh, my God.
And I'm not listening to a word I'm saying.
Yeah.
Because I'm just like, where's his fucking computer? And I called the hotel and like I tracked it down and I got a runner to take me down there and I got it. But I was like, oh my fucking God. It was a heart attack. It's worse than losing your own.
Oh, yeah.
Because
when you lose
this
somebody
was-
else's?
This was the first, like, we were only like a week into the tour. So that would have been another 7 weeks of Jasper being like, I hate this motherfucker.
Right.
I hate this motherfucker.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hey, Matt, can I borrow your new computer? I'd be like, my new computer is your new computer, my man. Because I just bought it for you. Sorry about the files.
That's the thing.
Yeah.
That's the thing. The phone, the computer, all that stuff. I don't care so much about, obviously, I'm sure everyone's like this. We don't care so much about the technology itself. We care about our stuff. I think about this all the time. Like when I'm in a tough spot financially, I go, well, I can pawn my computer. And I go, no, I can't.
Yeah.
Like everything I do for all my podcasts, for comedy, for cutting clip, I go, all of that's on the computer.
So what about backing up a computer? Do you guys do that?
Oh, yeah.
I feel like I'm like I don't know what I'm doing with this. I just save all my files on thumb drives and
What
stuff.
you do, okay, so what you do with the passports, I do with external hard drives in my
Okay.
computer.
Yeah.
I have like 3 of them, and I'll back up everything on the computer onto the
That's
external
smart.
hard drive, and then I'll just put it somewhere.
Yeah.
And then it still has tons of space on it, but what I'll do is I'll go out and get another external hard drive. Because this happened to me, and I think we talked about it on this show, but with my one-man show, I backed all the raw footage up onto a hard drive and mailed it to my editor, and they lost it.
Oh, man. Yeah, you told me about that.
And I
yeah.
was like, oh my God, but thank God I had it backed up on the computer and on a separate hard drive. So I was like, okay, no harm, no foul. But if I was, Brennan from 10 years ago, I would have just transferred all the files onto one hard drive and sent it. And then I would have been
You'd have
totally
been
fucked.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do hard drives and backups like you do.
That'd be a great T-shirt. I do hard drives and backups. Like, step the fuck back.
Well, it's so, because you never know. I've learned you'll never know. Like, so there's a comic in Austin who's kind of blowing up right now, and he's a Florida comic, and I had him on my podcast when he was just like coming to visit New York and no one knew who he was, and then he moved to Austin, and then he just killed Tony, and things start to happen for him. But the reason I bring that up is like I have our episode. Like, if I just needed to save space and I deleted old episodes, well, then there's nothing I can... But now I still have it. So I can always pull it back up, cut up clips, and now that he's, like, blowing up, be like, oh, yeah, I've had this person on my podcast. Go back and listen. So I always think... But I also don't throw away pictures. I don't know how you guys feel about this, but I don't delete pictures from my phone. I don't throw away pictures. So, like, I still have pictures from... Like, actual hard copy pictures... As a 35-year-old man from
a hard copy picture. I thought you meant pictures on your phone.
No. This is before. Like when I was in high school, I used to run around with a disposable camera as like a bit.
Before when you took a picture, it mattered.
Yeah.
I don't throw out.
And now I have all the like I have my like Tracy doesn't mind so much, my current girlfriend, but I do have had in the past where exes will be like, well, why do you have those pictures of your ex? And I go, I just don't throw away. Yeah. Like I minored in history. Like I don't throw away anything from the past because you know what I mean? I don't know if it's philosophical or if it's just I'm lazy, but like I just always keep those.
There's the fear or it's just the facts. It's irreplaceable.
Yeah.
So
you'll never get that moment in time back.
Why would you ditch something that's irreplaceable?
Okay. So I'm not crazy.
No, you're not crazy, but neither is your girlfriend. I mean, she doesn't want to look at your ex-girlfriends.
Speaking of paranoia.
It's just one of those things that's never going to be perfect.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't throw them out if I was you.
I got some, and sometimes it's fun to go back, especially those high school ones I took on a disposable camera. I have a bag. And this is one of the only things that survived the hurricane a couple years ago because we had Savannah, my ex, and I had all of our stuff in storage and everything was destroyed. All my papers from college, books, her piano that her grandmother gave her. And that was the reason we got the storage unit was for that piano, destroyed, all of it destroyed. But I kept the pictures in like 2 different Ziploc bags. And I don't even know why. I'm not like a prepper guy. I don't know why I did. I just did that.
Right.
Yeah.
Only thing that survived.
I feel like I need to get one of those boxes, like a safe box where I can keep valuables or.
Yeah.
I don't have that. I don't have any insurance on, the apartment or anything. Or well, it's not our home. We live in a house, and the landlady lives in the base, so she has her insurance.
You can still get renter's insurance.
Yeah, of course, but we don't.
Yeah, I know. You know what's funny is I've had it before, and it's like 8 cents a month. Like you might as well get it. It's like $25 a month.
Really? I thought it was
it's
like
so cheap.
I thought it was like $130 or something.
No. I had it for the whole year, and I had $70,000 in coverage. After what happened with the hurricane, I was like, oh, we're not playing this game. And I had like flood, like I had everything. $120 a year.
$120 a year?
Yeah, dude, it's so affordable.
It's so affordable.
I got to do that.
Yeah, I'll show you my company when we get
Put that on the list.
Yeah.
Back up the computer and get renter's insurance.
Yo.
Is it ever over?
I have like
Is it ever over? Dude, how many times can I tell you? I'm like, all I'm doing is working on my set and going to the DMV today. And then the next thing you know, it's just like, but also.
Yeah.
But also. Full fucking page of shit I got to do.
Yeah.
And I got to stay in shape.
Yeah.
And you got to, be a good husband. It's like it's never ending.
Yeah.
Every fucking day. And the funny thing is, I can be like, and we talked about this a couple of weeks ago. I was like, all right, my wife was out of town, and it was just like work. I got nowhere near to like getting it all done.
Yeah, but
not even close, man. And I was exhausted, like shit. It wasn't satisfying.
Because you know what? What's the problem? Like last summer, my wife was back home with the kids for about a month.
Yeah.
Or 3 weeks to a month. And I was like, this is going to be perfect. I'm going to work like a maniac.
Yeah.
And then you realize that, man, I need to rest. And I need to recharge. And that is part of the work. Like I would go to the beach alone, and I would just spend time alone, and that is part of the work that we don't. I think that's the disease in the cities, that we constantly feel the need that it's go, or we're missing out. But we don't realize how just resting and taking a few steps back will allow us to take that leap. But if we don't take the rest, it will. The quality of your work suffers. Your energy suffers. Your relationships suffer because you can't give the best of yourself.
Yeah.
Like I'm going to bed really late lately, and I wake up so early, and I can't be my best self. I can't be my best self here. I can't be my best self with my kids. I can't be my best self with my wife, and I can't be my best self at work. And this is just because I'm on a daily, I'm lacking sleep. So if you have like 10 days off, sometimes the best thing you can do for your work is take those 10 days off. Mm-hmm. And, it's like we all read The Artist's Way, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So it's like that thing that she says where you got to, it's like, besides the morning pages, it's the date with yourself.
Yeah.
This is the conflict of our podcast. It's the artist's way versus the war of art. Mm-hmm. They're pretty different. The artist's way is very like.
I never read the War of Art. What's like the main premise? The main premise
is,
of it.
Here's your new religion, dickhead. You're a fucking stand-up comic, and you're gonna work every day, first thing in the morning, and Christmas, Thanksgiving,
doesn't matter.
New Year's Eve, you're working. It's the only path to happiness.
Was the
it's
author
the only
from New
path
York?
to freedom.
Stephen Pressfield. I'm not sure where he's from.
And that is one direction to go, and I think it does work in a way because you do get a lot done and you feel a purpose. The only problem is I find you get into a negative motivation after you read that book, which is like this
like militant.
Yeah, it's like I got to get this done, or
guilt.
I didn't do my job today.
Yeah.
I'm going to, and it's almost like I'm going to fail. That's also an underlying thing. You're going to fail because you're not doing your best.
Yeah, it sits with you in other aspects of life too, because so the whole idea is like what you're passionate about should be your obsession. And if it's your obsession, then you should do it every day. You should have no excuse to do it every day. Like the muse doesn't come randomly. Like you conjure it by sitting down and doing the work. That's his whole idea, is like it's not a random act that like, oh my God, eureka. It's like you sit down, you fucking work, you work,
That's
you work.
a professional.
And then
it's professional versus amateur.
Yeah, that's the whole book.
You go to work every day.
Yeah, but how did eureka happen? Like he was in his bath, right? and he had that epiphany. That's where Eureka comes from.
Oh yeah.
So
the actual, Eureka.
That's the artist's way.
Right.
It's like you distract yourself, you feed yourself, you feed the artist. You go out to the park, you go to the beach. You just bring your voice recorder, and if you have an idea, you say something. But that's not even necessary.
Right.
The artist's way works too. And for the audience that doesn't know, the artist's way is more about inspiring yourself. And so
and healing yourself.
The only militant part or routine part of the artist's way is you wake up and you write 3 pages, which I still do every day or close to every day. It's the first thing I do. But then it's more like, hey, you're stuck. You need to go fucking ride that little car in the air, sky car over Roosevelt Island.
Yeah.
You got to go do something you've never done before.
That's the biggest difference.
You got
to do that once a week.
Right. And you've got to
and alone.
And you've got to live. Yeah. It's a date with yourself or a date with your artist.
Yeah.
And so what I am is I'm a war of art in the streets, but artist way in the sheets. So what I do is,
we got the clip for the week.
It definitely affects me though.
Rewritten.
Yeah, right. It affects me in like real
you have no
life.
idea. I was like, am I going to be able to pull that off?
This is our moment, my moment.
I'm doing it. It's like a 2-year-old starting to walk. I'm like, I'm going to pull this off. But what I mean by that is it's for me, it's war of art in the morning. And then after like 6 p.m., it's artist's way.
Yeah.
It's like work's done, time to enjoy myself, time to enjoy my relationship, my city. I steal away or like just to even go for like a drink at a bar by myself or like just walk around and that does the trick. As I'm getting older, as I'm becoming more disciplined and gotten over that hurdle, that I can work every day and I am driven to work every day, I'm falling more and more back into the artist's way.
Okay.
And I need to find the joy because it's been a long time now of just going at it. And I find there's no flavor to it. I find it's very black and white. Mm-hmm. I need to get there. Dorothy needs to find the Wizard of Oz, man. Like the color. I need to see the color.
But don't forget that, the whole message of the Wizard of Oz is that she always had it. Like everything that you're seeking is already in you.
Right. But it took the catalyst.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm honestly just talking about the visuals.
Yeah.
That's all I'm talking about with the Wizard of Oz. I don't even really understand the Wizard of Oz. I haven't watched it that much.
The War of Art fucked me up.
Did it? Yeah, because now you can't unlearn this idea.
Like today, I woke up at 5:45, and I was like, because I closed at the restaurant last night, so I didn't get home and like get into bed until like 2:30.
Yeah.
And I just opened my eyes at 5:45 and felt that kind of like, I guess I'm awake.
Yeah.
But I was like, this is stupid. Like, go back to bed. Like, you have a full day. And I went back to bed, and then I woke up at 10 o'clock, and fucking the War of Art just in my head, like, you piece of shit. Now you can't go to the gym. You're not going to be able to sit down and edit this video for your podcast. Like, you've wasted, because you wanted to go back to sleep and get some rest. You have now wasted everything you wanted to do. And then I'm on the train coming here just thinking like, well, maybe I'll get called out of work tonight. And then it's like, for what? Right. So you can not make money and then get all the stuff done that you were supposed to do this morning. Like, it's just in my, because you can't unlearn it once you read the book. Like, it's just in my head. Like, you should have just gotten up. You should have just done the work like you know you're supposed to.
Right.
Which is so bad.
I think now that you're up and running, I think a schedule can help. Yeah. Like, I'm going to give this amount of time to this podcast, and then, I mean, your plate is so full, Brennan.
Yeah.
You know, I do worry about you.
When some of those clips talking about sometimes when you don't get enough rest, you start making mistakes. Some of the clip, what was that, 2 weeks ago? I had like 2 typos like back to back in clips, and Matt was like, "You good, man?" And I was like, "Yeah, I think so."
That happened to me when I was doing Roadheads. I was like, you know what? You're working after the show tonight. You're going to go back to your hotel room. I made so many mistakes.
Yeah.
I was doing a podcast.
Well, and then you're listening to it as the subtitles are coming on. Yeah. So your brain registers it as like, oh, it looks good because it sounds good. So there's so many times where I'll just miss an E here or an entire word there. And then I post it, and then, Matt always double checks it, and he goes, "Hey, man, you forgot all of this."
Yeah, it gets hard after a while. I don't know what the answer is exactly, because you obviously have to work. Yeah. You obviously have to make money. but you're also, I really have gotten to the point where I think like we're all killing ourselves for like,
yeah, it's fine.
just to like make, I don't even think it's about money for us. I feel like it's just about like making our mark on the universe. And I do feel like that's a, what do you call it? You can't do it in a way because you can do it for like a moment and then it's just gone.
Yeah.
The next person has their moment.
Right.
And the next person has their moment and so on and so on. And I just don't know what the answer is. It changes day to day for me. I'm getting more into, like somebody wrote me on Instagram and they were like, yeah, man, I'm happy to hear you're taping a special. Like you know, you should get what you deserve. Like you should have like the career that you deserve. And I was like, dude, deserve? Like I don't even do deserve anymore. That doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah.
Because you get what you get. Different people get different things for a different amount of effort. There's people that just showed up when they're 22 and just kind of bullshitted their way and they just like have been successful ever since because their moment when they were 22. I'm thinking of a specific person. You know, and then there's guys like us, like most comedians, like go for it.
Yeah.
And we're doing 45 minutes clean in Pennsylvania in August.
Right.
Come on out.
Yeah. and yeah, I feel like we don't enjoy life and it's passing us by.
That's what I'm saying. I got to a point where I'm like, hold on a second. I'm almost 50. Like, when is this moment coming? Because it's even come before. I even gotten my moments before. And then it's just back to the grind. And I think the grind is good. I think the work is good. I think the grind is... I'm just putting more in perspective as I get older. And like, yes, I'm going to continue to work. But I'm better at it now.
Yeah.
Like, I don't have to work as hard. Like, I can like... I know how to use an hour to my benefit. And that's what I do with my stand-up. I'm like, we'll work on this for an hour. I'm going to set my timer. I'm not going to check my emails, put my phone on airplane mode, and just work for that hour. Where it used to be when I was like 24, it would take me all day to get that. And I still wouldn't even like work on my set for an hour. You know, I'd be all distracted and like all over the place. Now I know how to be efficient about it. You know?
And you said something that really, I think, is the point of this show, the deserve thing.
Right.
Because I literally had a mental break at work at the restaurant a few days ago. Because I was on my phone I think I was texting you about the gig, and I'm not supposed to be on my phone. And it's one thing to like be on my phone and then like put it aside, but like I was on it. Like I was on it to the point where I was like, you should get off your phone. And if I'm in my head like this is kind of aggressive. But I'm like in the corner, none of my guests can see me, but the manager like walked by and then walked by again. And the third time she came by, I was still on it. And she was like, Brennan, your phone. And I don't know what happened. I just I didn't snap at her because I've been a lot better about that. I think doing this podcast has made me a lot better and more aware about that. I just kind of snapped at myself. I was like, yeah, I'm texting Matt about a gig. I'm like freaking out about the podcast. I'm like, and then I just turned to her and I go, I don't know what's going on. Like, and she had no idea that. And I go, I don't know what's going on. I'm dumping like 60 to 70 hours a week into podcasting and comedy. And then I'm also working at the restaurant, 30 hours a week. Yeah. On top of that, and then I'm also going to the gym 6 days a week, and I go, I don't understand. Like, I'm doing all of this, and I don't even know how I'm going to pay rent this month. Like, not like, oh, I don't know how I'm gonna, like, I legitimately did not know this month how I was going to finish, like, get that last $300 for my rent. Yeah, and and I'm just telling this all to my manager, and I'm like, I feel like I deserve more. Right. And then because she's a lot like you, Daniel, where she's very kind of like almost in that Buddhist mindset of like everything's going to happen when it happens kind of a thing. She turned and she looked at me and she goes, Brennan, it's not about what you deserve. Right. It's about what you get. And you're going to get whatever you're going to get when you get it. And I was like, oh, yeah. Yeah. So that's my thing. Like I'll have a tendency to be like, I don't get enough. Yeah. But then I went home to Maryland a couple weeks ago and I was like, I could have just stayed here and like none of that would have happened. Like every little thing is so fucking cool. Like every little thing, it's not necessarily something you can put in the bank, but it's like all the things I've gotten to do just because I took a chance. I didn't get all that I wanted. Not even close. But on the other hand, I got more than I can ever imagine.
you know, and things that I couldn't possibly imagine because I didn't know what to imagine. I've seen it. I've seen it. I've done it.
That's exactly the thing. I think the moment we talk about deserving, and if you have an expectation, you're bound to be disappointed.
Yep.
Yeah.
We had a whole episode about that.
Yeah, and it's like it's the constant awareness of not expecting anything, but it comes back to the same thing. If we're not doing things in joy, like I really believe in the energy that you put in, like in whatever you do. It could be cooking. Like I remember once I had a fight. I was fighting with my wife months ago, and I remember I was just so angry, and I still prepared a meal for everyone. I still cooked dinner, and she was like, "I don't want to eat this because
you made it, and I'm mad at you."
No, because she says because you made it in anger, and which made me even more angry.
Right,
you know.
Sure.
But at the same time,
how did the wall like that?
Like, But then at the same time, she was right. Like I was putting that energy into the food, and she didn't want to put that energy into her body.
Yeah.
And even though it made me more angry, I was totally I totally agreed with her.
You're like, this is why I love you.
Yeah. Well, yeah, like this, but it's true.
Yeah, that's the whole.
Because it's energy.
That's the Toronto house, baby.
And it's what you put into everything. It's, how you do things, how you communicate with people, how you make a phone call, I never write an email. If I'm angry, I don't know if we ever spoke about this, but
no, let's talk about it.
But if I never send an email or I never make a call in anger. I can write an email in anger, but I won't send it. I'll step away from it, and then I'll say, and I'll step away from it, and then I'll come back to it. I'll re-edit it, and if I'm not ready, this is going to sound corny, but I really do this. But if I'm not ready to send it in love, I don't send it at all.
I think that's so smart.
That's so much
because
better than...
I was in my 20s when email started to become a thing. And I would send emails in anger. And not anger towards the other person either. More like desperate. Like I'd hit somebody up and I'd be like, yo, how do I get a job at blah, blah, blah? Without like the nuances or like the love. Like, hey, how you doing? Matt Fulcheron here. Inside joke. Next paragraph, you know?
Right. But you know what? Sometimes that's the mystery of life. Sometimes anger really works. Like
the dark side of the force.
Yeah, but it's so it's so strange because I'll give you an example. I have a friend of mine who's a filmmaker in Germany. Yeah, and he kind of quit writing films and directing films, and he's extremely talented, and his second short film made it to the top 10 short list for the Oscars.
Oh wow.
It was his second short film, and it's a huge privilege, and they only pick 5 out of the 10, and then and he didn't get asked he wasn't nominated, and he got very depressed. But he received an email from someone, and I don't remember the story exactly, but he was being ghosted by someone. Yeah, and he had the I don't give a fuck in me at this point because he was so angry, and he was like, "How can you? I've been emailing you all the time. You never have the decency to respond and I think he used even a couple of fucks. and we're talking about someone that can help his career. Yeah. And he did not care. Right. And right away he gets an email. Oh my God, I'm so sorry. I'm going to help you. And it's like, I couldn't believe that anger, or is it anger? It is anger, but it's also truth. Right. And maybe that truth is, in some way a form of love or a transparency, or I feel they're both very intertwined. But the truth truth prevailed. Like it allowed him to get a response from someone who's been ghosting him for. And how many times did I dream of like, just like how the fuck do you not reply to? How do you give someone something and then ghost them, and then you promise them a certain thing and then you don't own up to it, and it's not even human to do that, and it's so common in this industry.
Oh my God.
Yeah,
it is
and
like
that's why
spineless people.
That's why
spineless.
That's who responded. A spineless person was like, "Oh my God, I'm now intimidated
Right.
by this person,"
Right.
and like people usually
fear.
tiptoe around them. And they're like, "Oh my God, this is like a legitimate emotion."
Yeah.
Which I would still advise against, because doing anything in writing, I think, is like fucking
Today,
I think it's risky.
Yeah.
You know, because it's just sitting there.
Yeah.
If you said something to someone, if you called them up and bitched them out,
That's
way better.
Right.
That's my trick, and I know I've talked about it before, but it's not what you say, Brennan. It's how you say it. Because anger is one of my biggest character defects is anger, and it's not like angry like I'm mad. It's like a blind rage, and I've talked about it before. But like at work, hey, could you please do this? Hey, could you and nothing, and then finally, hey, you're being fucking useless.
Yeah,
like you are just a cancer sucking the money out of everything else that we are getting for you.
Yeah.
Can you try to help out a little bit? And then all of a sudden, they're helping out.
Right.
But you're the asshole.
But now and I mean, I know I've talked about it before, but it's one of those things where, and I don't know if it's sports or whatever it is, but it was being raised in that environment where if you ask someone to do something, even if I have tried so hard, especially since starting the show, especially since getting sober, to do the gentler path, to be nicer, and you don't get the same results. you just don't. And people go, oh, well, that's not true. And it goes, but I know it from firsthand experience, whether it's with comedy, podcast, like sometimes with the podcast where people will be like, oh, like I'm running a little late. And it's like, listen, man, we fucking booked it for this time. Not here, obviously, but like, especially at the studio when you're paying for time.
Yeah.
And I'll be like, listen, if you can't do it, you can't do it. Or like if they text me like the day before, and I try to be like soft and tiptoe, but then I feel like almost I'm getting walked on or walked over. You know what I mean? Like being a pushover. But
then if we're talking about, it all comes down to your ego.
Yeah.
And then you get your ego to get the best out of you. And it's like, and then you put, and I get you. I get you. But at the same time, you are allowing someone to reign over your happiness.
100%. Because other people make me so angry more than I ever make myself angry.
And then why would you give, I don't want to say a meaningless person, but you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That power over your sense of well-being. And we do. It happens.
I think in this sense, it's because he wants results.
Right.
He wants the person to wake up.
Yes.
I think it's going to work a lot. I think it's also not going to work.
But that's the
you
thing.
can say that about anything.
I say it. I don't ever write it. I say it. I will never text it. So then if I get a call from HR, I go, I never said that.
And then that person has to like do their best impression of it or whatever, and they
like,
probably can't do it.
Yeah.
Well, there are a lot of good actors who are waiters.
Well, yeah, that's true.
That's true.
But it's also like I might have said like, could you help out a little bit more? I don't ever think I called him a useless piece of cancer. That doesn't sound like me. But yeah, to your point, I never write any of that down. I always just say it out loud.
Right.
Yeah.
Because you can't. But you're absolutely right. And this goes back to the paranoia that we were talking about earlier, but it's one of those things where I let other people dictate everything in my life. Or I did for a very long time. And then getting sober, and especially, I know I say it all the time, but especially since starting this podcast, because it's different from anything else where we actually talk about this stuff that a lot of people are like, oh, that's fucking gay. It's like, no, let's just talk about it. But yeah, so I've gone a long way to like try not to let, but even like coming here, like the trains, it's Saturday, so the trains are running a little weird. And I was like, you piece of garbage. Like now you're going to disappoint everybody. I get off the train and I'm like running.
Yeah.
And it's like, but then we get up here and we're unpacking and we're talking and we're having a good time. It's like, you didn't have to run from the subway, but like, I just don't want other people to be disappointed in me.
For future reference, amongst this group, you've been early so many times. You got like 5 lates in you.
Yeah.
And we ain't going to say shit.
And for future reference, I'll never be mad at that.
Yeah. Well, it's our show. We can always just do 40. Like we did the 45.
That's what we're doing.
Yeah. Right. And it's like, oh, this is great.
I was aiming for 30.
That's what we're doing. And I got to tell you, I like a shorter podcast. I have an anxiety about, just side note, filling the hour.
Yeah.
And I had the same anxiety when I was going to therapy. Like, how am I going to fill this fucking 50 minutes? You know? Like, I had that because it was so similar to my podcast. It was on a Zoom.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like, I'm new to therapy. I feel like I have like a set list, like things I wanted to talk about. And towards the end of one of our sessions, the therapist was like, you know, you're finally pausing and just relaxing.
I ain't got shit to say.
And I'm like, yeah, I think I'm cured, man.
Right.
But something I want to say a little bit back was the work, the war of art says the work is the reward. So at least it has that going for it. Like, it doesn't say it's about the result.
Yeah.
And it talks about when you make something shitty too.
But didn't you mention, like, they talk about failure? So isn't it about the result? Like, because if you don't do it,
No, the failure and the idea in the
book. They don't use that word either.
No, they never use the word failure. But the idea in the book is if you don't sit down to do the work, that is what you would consider a failure.
It's a wasted day. It's like you didn't do your job.
Yeah, he says something else. Yeah,
it's a missed opportunity.
That's what it is. So it's not.
But it's also your mission.
Yeah.
Like, it's not just like, it's like you failed. It's like you didn't show up for your religion. Mm-hmm. It's like you're not practicing your religion is what it's more like.
Yeah, because it turns, and I mean, it makes a good point. The point of the book is basically like, if this is really what you want to do, then fucking do it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, and it's so simple, but it's true. It's like a lot of, and we see this all the time. So many people talk about, I want to have a successful podcast or a success. Well, and what is success really? But like, people are, talk about that all the time. And then especially in my situation, because I go to so many open mics, I'll be like, so what are you doing with your podcast? I took the last month off. Like, we're releasing episodes like every once in a while. And I'm like, then you don't want to do it. War of art aside, it's like, then you obviously don't want to do it.
Right.
So I think that's the whole idea. And like, to Matt's point, is like, do it.
And that's a great example, because if we didn't know, like, we know that the key to a successful podcast
consistency
is once a week, same time every week.
Yep.
If we didn't know that, I don't think I think we'd be
so
more like
weeks.
2 or 3 weeks.
Yeah.
I really do. Because
we banked a bunch of episodes before we even released because we knew that was the key.
Right. Yeah. So it is healthy to have deadlines. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, you just gotta and that's why we do makeshift shows in a bar.
Yeah.
Because we need some kind of deadline.
Yeah.
We need to prepare for something. Mm-hmm. Or at least, like, even if we didn't prepare, take your ass up on stage.
Yeah.
And, like, find something while you're up there.
And then remind yourself why you have to prepare.
That's a fucking wake-up call.
Yeah, and I think it's fair to mention that everybody works differently.
Yeah, 100%.
True. So what might work for one person might not work for another, and some people might find the War of Art very useful, and some people, it might cause anxiety. And same thing with the Artist's Way or whatever. We spoke about this too, the author Pablo Coelho, how he would procrastinate all day and then feel guilty and then he would write.
Yeah.
As opposed to writing first thing in the morning, mm-hmm. or sometimes you're a morning person, sometimes you're a night person, and there's no right or wrong answer. There's just what works for you. It's like writing. Like, some people sit down and write. Some people don't write at all and they find a joke on stage. Some people record and some it's a combination of all three. And it's like whatever, that's what I loved about Bruce Lee, because Bruce Lee he says, a traditional martial art like Kung Fu or karate or whatever, it's like the whole point of his martial art was called Jeet Kune Do, which meant the way of the intercepting fist. And what was brilliant about it is, like, you can't crystallize it. Like, this is what works for me as I'm 5'7", 130 pounds. Like, what works for me with my agility, my speed, my weight, my height might not work, and most probably won't work for a guy who's like 280 pounds, and he has a different approach to fighting, and he has a completely different instrument to work with. So to try, the key is to have all these tools and then I guess figure out what works best for us and eliminate what doesn't. But to say this is this to crystallize something as the right way is, I don't think is possible.
No,
Yeah.
you're absolutely right. I'm became a personal trainer a few years ago, and you guys know I work out a lot and stuff.
Yeah.
And it's exactly to your point. I grew up in locker rooms. I grew up with strength coaches. I grew up with people screaming, and that's what motivates me. If I'm in the gym and someone's like, "Fuck, do another one," I get hyped.
Yeah.
I've won 4 state championships in weightlifting back in my high school. We're like slapping the shit out of each other, like, "Let's go."
Yeah.
And then when I became a personal trainer, I quickly got out of that because I realized, oh, that's not only not for everyone, not for most people. It takes a very special individual to play sports at any level, let alone a high level.
Right.
And most people aren't wired like that.
They just want to be healthy
Yeah,
when they're training.
Exactly. So like even Tracy is a power lifter. She lifts 5 days a week. But when I go to the gym with her, she'll ask me to spot her and I'll be like, "Come on, let's go." And she'll be like, "Don't do that. Don't do that."
Maybe
like,
it's 3 reps, maybe it's 8.
Yeah, and she's like, "I'm just gonna lift the weight," and I'm like, because to me that's great. Like if someone
Right.
doesn't scream at me, I'm like, "Oh, what's
Yeah.
the point?" But
Right.
like
Well,
it goes back to what you're saying.
Yeah.
I think I'm experiencing an example of why the war of art is a good thing, what you want to take away from positive. Like this morning when I woke up, I didn't want to get out of bed. I didn't want to set up this equipment. I didn't want to fucking deal with the heat. I didn't want to write out these notes, which we didn't have to use, thank God. And now we got a couple minutes left, and I'm so fucking glad we did this.
Yeah.
Because you do have to force yourself most of the time.
And it's also finding if you really connect at an emotional, psychological level, the why we do this. I'm thinking of this great story. You'll find the how, but there's a story of a 14-year-old girl who was about to get raped. She was walking in the woods.
Yeah, in the woods?
Yeah,
You got a lot about to get raped stories.
I have one of my best friends used to teach all these rape prevention.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah,
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No.
We heard the one about the brother in
cocaine.
Super Bowl.
No. I have another one.
Okay.
Here we go.
No. So this is she was, I think she was 14, and she was jumped by this dude in the woods. And he said, if you scream, I'll kill you. And she was working. Side story. She's been saving so much money the whole summer because she wanted this leather jacket. She dreamt of having this beautiful leather jacket, and she finally got enough money. She earned it. She bought it. She purchased it. She was so happy. The day that she gets assaulted, she's wearing her leather jacket, and she's about to get raped, and he's hitting her. And she freezes, and she doesn't, it's about to happen. Mm-hmm. And then she turns over and she realizes that he stained her leather jacket. And she fucking lost it.
Yeah.
She's like, she worked the whole summer for that. And she starts scratching his face, like eye gouging him, biting him.
Yeah.
And she saved her own life.
Yeah.
Because she found the why. Like, no one's messing with his jacket.
Yeah, right.
But everyone has that leather jacket story. It could be, retiring your parents or getting them a beach house or I don't know, whatever it is to you, that personal why. Why do you really want to do this? And how it will save your life if you connect to that why. Mm-hmm. But we often forget the why. Yeah. And we just start we're like a rat in a wheel, and just every day, it's another day, and we keep telling ourselves it's another hustle, it's another, and it's
grind. But that's why I think like it's important to actually work on the art. Like there's so many things that are art adjacent.
Yeah.
When I really sit down, so I'm preparing for a couple shows right now. I really sit down and start working on how I'm going to do it. Start to get excited. I'm like restructuring all my jokes for this special I'm going to take. Start to get excited. And that's what we're looking for. Where if it's like, okay, I'm sending out emails, like that ain't what we're talking about.
Right. No. Right.
That's part of it.
Yeah.
But that's not the art. That's the business. And I find that there's some kind of supernatural thing where like if you just work on the art, the phone calls just come.
Yeah.
Whereas if you type and type and type, or even the day I found out I got my half-hour special, it was a day I took off and just was going to hang out with my girlfriend. I turned my phone off. People are calling me, emailing me. They finally call my home phone, and I'm like, I'm sorry, honey, because we had this thing where we would
turn the phones off.
Yeah, I was like, I'm sorry, I'm gonna I'm answering the phone, because we just heard it on the answering machine. And I had all this catch up to do. I was like, holy shit, I got my half-hour special. I couldn't believe it. But it was on a day where I wasn't waiting by the phone, and I didn't want a phone call. And I think there's something to that. Yeah. Much like the dating universe, if you put it out there, I don't give a fuck if you give it to me. Right. All of a sudden it's coming.
That energy is attractive.
So I can't tell you exactly what to do because there's different philosophies. And I've had both of them work. And I think that's going to... put us at 1:30 p.m.
Nailed it.
I hope we learned something. I hope everybody learned something. And I really think it's time, if you are listening and you do enjoy this podcast, to start pledging $1 or $2 on Patreon. If everybody does it,
or 100,
or 100,
we get the episodes early. Definitely the video, the audio. We post all that early, and then we put bonus content on.
And you keep us in business if you enjoy this.
Oh yeah, that whole thing.
And I do want to mention this because we are starting to have some listeners, and it's just thank you.
Yes,
just thank you for taking the time. Thank you for there's a sea of podcasts out there, and we're lucky to have you guys listen.
Yeah, absolutely.
So thank you.
Let's hear that dope-ass outro by Daniel Tirado. Thanks for listening to The Power of How. Music by Daniel Tirado. Artwork by Nelson Diaz. Follow us on all the social medias at The Power of How Podcast. Rate, review, and subscribe. And check us out at patreon.com/The Power of How Podcast. Send us some positive vibes in the form of U.S. currency. See you next week, everybody.